Good afternoon, Pack Nation. This is Coach JT with Pack Baseball and Softball Academy. I'm here with special guest, Coach Haley Askland. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Perfect. And she's an 18U softball coach in Iowa. And I know we talked in 2 episodes ago from a coach from California who they're already playing and in season. I don't imagine that's the case in Iowa, but maybe you can speak to that a little bit as you're going, Coach.
Oh yeah. We're still playing. Like we're indoor right now.
Nice. Well, go ahead and tell the community who you are, what you're doing, what your goals are, why you're here, and why you're a coach.
So my name is Haley Asklin. I am from Des Moines, Iowa. I'm actually born and raised in Milo, Iowa, which is about 45 minutes to an hour from Des Moines. Des Moines is pretty much your capital where you live in Iowa. I started playing in T-ball and I literally have not stopped. So I have 3 kids. My oldest played softball. My middle child plays softball, and then we have a boy. So we're trying to get him into baseball, but it's iffy because of his bio mom, and they live in Nebraska. Um, so I played since I was little. My parents were my coaches, and that's where I kind of like learned, I think, where I wanted to be a coach, just because I seen how they did everything, how they worked everything. Um, Softball has been my passion, honestly. Let's just put it that way. It's honestly, I probably would eat, breathe, and sleep softball, is how I was born and raised since I played. And I actually still play softball on a woman, it's a women's fast pitch here in Des Moines, Iowa. So they actually have it all over. So the travel team side of it went to California this year. I can't travel that far because I have kids. So I just play on their summer league. But then like my 18U team is, they want to rock and roll. They want to learn everything, and that's what I'm teaching them.
You're now coaching, if we catch everybody up, you're coaching 18U travel ball team.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like from your sweatshirt, you're with Slammers.
Yep, Iowa Slammers.
Okay, Iowa Slammers.
So a lot of the girls that I have, knowing they're in 18U, they're a mix. Okay, so like my daughter, for example, she's 17, so she can play 18U. I'd have two junior, yeah, 2 juniors, 2 seniors, sophomores, and then one of them is 15, I believe. And she's about to turn 16ish. I just don't know birthday, so
You're okay.
don't beat that on me. But they're like a mixed group, and they're a fun mixed group. And that's like with my softball teams, that's what I want. I want the girls to have fun. I want them to be able to express who they are. But on top of that, they also need to know when to be serious, how to be serious, when do we take this seriously when it comes to playing the game. And that's where a lot of these girls, they don't know how to, say, throw a fastball. Okay, I'll take my pitcher, for example. She learned herself. She didn't know anything about pitching, that you had to have a certain dynamic or a certain routine every time. Her routine was different, which escalated into a lot of balls versus strikes type of thing. So I'm also a pitching coach too. I am now a hitting coach. And apparently now I'm doing catching, which is out of my zone, but I can tell you how to do it. Okay. I've learned a lot from these girls. They're very upbeat. This is probably one of the teams that I would say that if they put their head down and they put the work in and they had fun with it, they're going somewhere. It's like, and I don't like to bring up my daughter a lot, but I've trained her to who she is as a catcher. She is my main catcher. She works hard. She puts her head down. She knows what to do. And if she knows she's doing something wrong, she comes to me. She doesn't call me mom. She calls me coach. And she'll be like, Coach A, what am I doing wrong? And that's the difference between, I think, a lot of coaches that are parents, that that's where it divides. On that field, I'm known as Coach A because of my last name. So they just take the letter. Um, but then when we're off the field, her and I will talk as like mother-daughter type of thing. Okay, I think you could improve on this. Let's work on this at home. You know, and that's where it divides. And as she grew up before I became a coach, um, I didn't want to become a coach while she was younger because then it would act like, okay, she's being favored because she's your daughter. Not the case at all. And all these girls know that. So that's where the division is because of I treat her way different. Like I treat her equal like the other girls. Okay, we're not doing something right. Let's improve it. Let's fix this. Let's do this. You know, your generic go through what you would do as to a player, like figuring out what's wrong. And that's where I kind of stepped in with the Iowa Slammers 18U to become more of that role model, I guess, is kind of what I'm going for, is to be a role model to these girls. They're a lot younger. You know, a lot of them are 15, 16 years old, but they can learn from the older girls of what they're doing. And that's what I want. Because you're not going to get a lot of girls that, you know, are all the same age. It's very rare in Iowa if you do, where a lot of girls are 14U and playing 16U. It's just how it is now.
Yeah. So very interesting. So you said a few things and you started out with passion, fun, and expressive. And I want to ask you, because you said you're a pitching coach who's sort of morphed into a catching coach. I imagine that has something to do with your daughter, but it may not. And then how do you incorporate passion and make your drills and your practices and your trainings for pitching? How do you make them expressive and fun?
So a lot of times what we do is we'll play a little game. So I'll take like our pitchers and catchers, and my pitchers probably honestly hate me for this, but I learned it to be fun as a pitcher because me growing up as a pitcher, I went through 3 pitching coaches where, you know, my pitcher on my team that I've had since fall, she she was getting overly stressed because she thought it always had to be perfect or anything like this. Well, in softball, you have zones. Baseball's probably the same thing. I don't know too in depth about baseball, so don't shoot the messenger. um,
Sure.
but normally, how I tell my girls, okay, technically you have 9 zones across the plate. You know, you got your higher, middle, low. Well, we take middle out. I don't want anything down the middle. You know, that's where it leads to like home runs. So I'll call out, say, inside low, and that's where she'll put the ball out. And we try and make it fun, and then we'll do it on an actual batter and do it live. So that way she's not feeling, okay, yeah, this is just practice, but we can have fun with it and actually do some fielding, get out, and then a lot of times we'll split teams. So I'll divide them and then I'll work with pitchers that way. The whole catching thing really didn't come up because of my daughter. She mainly became my catcher. I'll put it that way. So she plays on my fast pitch team that I'm on. And she knows just to get her started with catching, I just started pitching to her just to get her used to, okay, with the gear on. You know, a lot of girls don't understand how much weight they're carrying with that gear. And we wanted her to get used to it because she couldn't start until 8th grade here in Iowa. They have like a little spring league, but it only goes until you're 12. And then from there, you have a huge gap of until you're in eighth grade. What do I do until then? Like, where I'm from, Milo, you don't have that. You play from T-ball up until you're 18U. It didn't matter who you were. Here in Des Moines, it's different. You don't have the opportunity. And she is a very good example of a kid that started in eighth grade who should have known basics by now and didn't. So that's where I had to start basics in eighth grade with her of catching. And then, so I worked through Grand Slam as the pitching coach. And then they came and asked me, they're like, would you feel comfortable doing catching lessons too? And I'm like, I guess I can. I can get back into it. Like, it's not hard for me to learn. I can watch, college games and pinpoint, okay, this is what you should be doing versus this type of thing. A pop-up or, blocking, all that. So, and some of the college games that we watched, be just her and I. And I told her, I'm like, okay, this is where you need to kind of go out above and beyond of blocking. Blocking is a huge one, and I don't think a lot of girls understand blocking. Because even like our Iowa Slammers 12U, 14U that we have, there's a girl I'm have a lesson with right now that's catching, and she had no clue what to do with blocking. She didn't know the dynamic of it. She didn't know that she was even supposed to be doing that. And I told her, yes, when you get to 18U, you definitely need to block. So, and she didn't know that. She's too young. She don't know. She's just still learning basics because she's in 12U. 12U coaches a lot of times don't teach that, where I think they should. But it's also as you grow up. At the older you get, each level, you learn something different. And that's where I think a lot of kids don't understand that. Okay, I'm not learning this now, but am I going to learn it in the future? That also depends on the coach, though, too. Where with my girls, I have a very good example girl on my team. She's a catcher. She only caught high school. And that's it. She literally put the glove out there, caught the ball, threw it back. She can throw down, but that's about it. She never was taught how to block. She was never taught how to call balls. Like, for your pitcher, me as a coach, every coach is different, but me as a coach, I like for my catcher to call the pitches to my pitcher. And if the pitcher doesn't agree with it, we have a signal that goes back to the catcher saying, hey, let's change that one. Or say if a rise ball isn't working today, we skip that one, go to a different pitch type of thing. So it just kind of like depends on who you are, I guess, as a coach that wants to do that. Some of them call them out. Some of them have a radio. Some of them have a watch. They go off of like college where they have watches. We're not that way, but
Yeah, not yet, at least. So there's a couple of things I picked up here, Coach, and I love it. You're obviously passionate about the game. Excuse me. One of the things you talked about was in your zones when you're having your pitcher practice the live pitching. I wanted to come back to this because you had said that it's good for them to get feedback, and I wanted to expand on that a little bit. If you're out there having a live batter and you're telling the pitcher to hit those zones, the pitcher is also getting some feedback on where the ball's going when they pitch to those zones, right?
correct.
And how do you incorporate that into the learning process, or do you sort of naturally let it unfold in the practice?
So it honestly kind of depends on the situation. So like my pitchers know now on that aspect, but when they first didn't know about it, a lot of my pitchers would come to me and ask me, okay, what's this? And then I would explain it to them, or say like we do an outside pitch and, it would unfold like that and she wouldn't understand why. So a lot of pitchers also, though, too, need to understand the factor. No matter where you place the ball, a batter is going to adjust. It doesn't matter. So Joe Hoke is a very good example. He was my batting coach from Iowa Blitz. I played on Iowa Blitz. I played on the Outlaws. I played on Midwest Madness. Like, I was on quite a few teams, but Iowa Blitz was my very big team from 10U up until 16U. Like, I was there forever. And
Yeah, forever.
yeah, it was forever ago, I tell you what. But, you know, and I'll say it, I'm still young, but I'm 29 years old. Back then, my senior year was 2015. Do the math between 10U and, 16U. I was there a while, and we did all year round. There was no stopping. We did not stop. We did indoor, we did outdoor, we did fall, spring, summer. Like, they even created their own summer team. And you don't see that in Iowa. It's either high school or you try and find a tournament team and try and find the girls. And a lot of times, so like my team, the odds are against us. We don't have a summer team, right? So because everyone's playing high school. So that's a natural. But when you go back to it, he is one of, I would say, in my opinion, everyone's different. Everyone has their own batting coach. He was one of the best batting coaches I've ever had. I didn't even know about an inside ball, when I was growing up. Oh, you got to get on the inside. Okay, what do you mean by inside? I have no clue what you mean. Do you mean like I need to come in and swing? Or do I need to open up? And he would, explain it. And that's where I put it into my pictures of explaining what an inside pitch is, what a inside high pitch is, what an inside low pitch is. And so like every practice we work on zones. So normally on zones for softball, you have inside, middle, out. And it's low. And normally your strike zone, if you get the correct umpire, okay, is normally from I'll go to hips to your knees, right? So a lot of times I'll tell my pitcher, go a little bit lower than the kneecap. So then that way, because some of our umpires here, they do call those strikes when they're at the shits. Again, it goes back on who you have as an umpire. I call it how I kind of see it when we do these little scrimmages. But it's just a way for the girls to have fun, but they can also learn the dynamics of how to play a position, or pitcher, where to pitch the ball, where to place it at. If we have this certain count, what are we throwing? And that's what I teach my catchers. Okay, we have this count. We've already thrown this pitch and this pitch, but yet she has this pitch that we haven't thrown yet, but we're ahead on the count. Are we going to throw it, or are we going to, have that as a cushion? And a lot of my girls are correct. So like we just went through with my daughter again on what to throw, when to throw it, and what our strike is. Like what our count is. We have, 0 balls, but we have 2 strikes on it. Are we going to throw a rise ball? Are we going to throw a curve, a screw? It all comes down to that. And that's where I train my catchers. Like I will sit them down at a table and we will go through it. Questions they have about it, we'll go through it. Okay. And I'll question it back to them so that way they understand it. Because some of my girls are more visual versus, okay, you can learn from a piece of paper. Great. That's awesome. But some of these girls, they need to physically see it when they're doing it. And that's where I'll question it back to them if we're not able to do that at that moment. And then when it comes down to it, when we go outdoor again, that's when I'll physically show them of how to do it.
I like it. And some you said earlier talking about, so you do pitching instruction, you do catching instruction, you do hitting instruction. So I imagine, and I want to get your take on it, that being a hitting instructor and a pitching instructor gives you an advantage both ways.
Yes, it does. It does a lot, honestly. So in fall, none of my girls could hit the ball. I wasn't the head coach at the time. I was only the assistant. So it was like I could only say so much, right? Versus try not to overstep the head coach. So then when we went indoor, I brought all of my girls together. I'm like, here's the deal. We're doing indoor practice these days through the week. We have a game on Sunday. I want us to rock and roll in hitting because then it prepares you for the next season. Indoor, I will say, is one of the best things. I hated it when I was growing up because it was boring. You know, you go inside, it's not as fun, you know, type of thing. But nobody here and I was going to play in negative 20-degree weather in snow that's high as your kneecaps, unlike me. Okay. So I've done that and it's not fun. Like, it kills the body, which is why, like, I know as I get older, it's not going to be fun for me. Let's just put it right. But when we go indoors, that's when we work on basics. We work on an inside ball, outside ball, rise ball, the whole works. So my girls recently did a drill and they hate me for it, but they love it because it works on quick hands. So I call it a repetition drill. I don't know if you know what that is. Some coaches don't know what it is because it's like an old time drill that they used to teach when I was about their age. So more or less it's throwing a ball one after another, after another, after another, and they have to try and hit it repetition. So that way they're coming around quick, you know, they're making the quick hands, they're driving that elbow forward, and it helps them get around better. And we versed a really fast pitcher over the weekend and nonstop. We were hitting off of her because they never did that drill. They were always like, okay, we think we know what we're doing, but we don't. So it just kind of depends on who you are. I just knew that drill from when I was growing up, and it helped.
Nice. So you talked a little bit about you still play.
I do.
Does that give you, because I'm a lot older than you, and I've been actually playing and coaching the same adult baseball team for 25 years. So does that give you an advantage as a coach still being involved as a player? Because the dynamic of being a player versus a coach is very different.
It is. I will say it is very different. I think it definitely gives us an advantage. So my junior and then my senior have all said that this summer that they want to join me on the field playing because they want to see me in action on the field. And I told them that they can. You know, our team is one of those teams that if you're 18 and older, you know, you have obviously you have a fee. Anything has a fee. So that way you can either are we doing jerseys, like that type of thing, and then for the field so we can rent out. So they're like, well, we really want to see you in action. Well, then of course it went into all of my younger girls wanted to see me in action. So instead of us doing the repetition drill, I physically pitched my girls. They love it. You know, I think I throw still in the about 55 miles per hour. And it just keeps going up because I keep working on it. The only bad part with me playing is I do have tendonitis in my shoulder from pitching. But I was always their go-to pitcher. So now unfortunately, I have tendonitis and I'm very young and I can't get that surgery or any of that until I'm in my 40s. So I got another 20 years to go. But, you know, but I still do it. And that's where I think my girls love the factor that I'm still in the game. You know, I'm not just a random coach mom or dad that, yeah, my kid plays on the team, but I saw a lot of coaches, and a very good one, for example, is my daughter's very first tournament team. The coach, he knew baseball, but he had no clue about softball. He didn't connect with the girls. And you got to really connect with your girls if you're going to get anywhere in softball. Baseball's different, okay? We all know baseball and softball, there's always been, that kind of battle because they're pretty much alike. But girls, it's a little bit different because a lot of times we'll be like, oh, yeah, you're my coach. Great, sweet. What are we doing today? And the girls look at you and are like, okay, are we doing something different today? Are we doing the same thing? I saw that a lot on my daughter's first team. And then when I came to help with pitching, because they asked me, well, can you be our pitching coach, like our side pitching coach to help? There's a girl on that team that wouldn't change it. Coach was trying for years. She's been on the team since she was freshman, 8th grade, whatever. She's now a senior. Her junior year, I came on and I told her, I'm like, do you want to change your windup? She's like, well, yeah, I would like to. I'm like, okay, well, do you want me to change it or do you want him to change it? And she's like, I want you to change it. And it was because of the fact that her and I connected because, I pitched before. I've pitched softball. I've, I still play the game where he was doing everything like every day it was the same thing. Girls got bored. Girls are very known to get bored easier. So you got to make it interesting every day. And I was like, I was one of those girls. Okay. You tell me something of this, and it's like, okay, I already know that. But can you show me? Like, I would tell the coach, can you show me how to do it? Like, you can tell me how to do it all day long. Doesn't mean I know how to do it. And that's where I think the difference is in that aspect. Where she wanted to learn from me, she didn't want to learn from the coach. And it's like, well, eventually you're going to have to learn from him because he is your coach. I hate to tell you, and that's where a lot of the girls would have a different mindset because I was there because I have played. And I still play. And all the girls are like, you still play? Yeah, I still play. Why wouldn't I play? Any chance I can get, I'll play.
Yep. Yep. You obviously still love the game. And that's one of the biggest advantages, I think, because I've coached for long enough to know, almost 26 years now, and there are coaches who have played the game at a very high level,
Mm-hmm.
and there are coaches who never did. And quite often, I'm not saying you can't be a good coach if you didn't play at a high level. That's not what I'm saying here. But it's usually very obvious when you're looking at the culture and the team that you're coaching, whether you did or you didn't, whether you
Yeah.
understand it or you don't. A lot of because baseball is so big and competitive, a lot of baseball coaches are making that transition over to softball to try and take advantage of new opportunities. And softball is a much faster game dealing with a different dynamic. Have you ever seen that Facebook meme or I think it was even on TV? It's not about the nail, where it's in the middle of her head. And
Yeah, I have seen that.
he's like, I think it's that. She's like, it's not about the nail. That's it. I mean, dealing with softball players is very different than dealing with baseball players. But either way, if I'm a baseball coach who's played at a high level, I can help. That helps me to earn respect faster because I have some sort of validation and can transfer the belief in what I'm doing to them. Sometimes it's harder for a coach who didn't play at that level to do that. I'm not saying they can't. They just have to work harder. So it
Yeah.
does become an advantage for somebody like yourself or me being somebody who played at a high level to be able to coach them and transfer that belief easier. And the biggest thing is the fact that you're still playing and still competing gives them this level of confidence in what you're saying. And when they have a higher level of confidence in what you're saying and showing and teaching them, they're going to play with a higher level of confidence,
Yeah.
knowing that what you're teaching them translates into success.
Yeah.
That's how I see it.
Yeah, 100%. Besides the whole, like, yeah, the girls got to have confidence, right? They need to have confidence in themselves. That is the biggest thing. But they also need to learn in a way, I don't know really how to say it, but they need a way to trust their coach, to be able to have that trust in them, but also be able to have the confidence that they do know what they're doing. And I've seen it time and time again with girls. You know, yeah, you have a guy coach. Okay, that's great. My dad was a coach, and he would be the third baseman, grumpy old man. But, you know, we won games. Okay. So, like, he was more or less the person that all the parents could come to. And, like, he would take all of their complaints. Oh, well, why aren't you having her pitch? You know? So, and my dad will tell you out straight. He didn't care. He was one of those people, he did not care. Okay. But then you would have my mom on first base, and she would be the more or less the supporter for the girls. Like, you could trust her, you could go to her with anything, batting per se. Okay, what am I doing wrong? And she would teach you step by step by step of what you are doing wrong. Where you have my dad over here with the parents. It was hilarious because we have a parent meeting and it was funny. But then you got like all of us girls in a group and it just worked out, you know? And that's where I think like you can play baseball, softball all day long, okay? You can play as a player, but you also need to learn how to have the coach dynamic of taking everything you know as a player and putting it into your team. And that's where a lot of people don't know how to do that, or they're doing it the wrong way. Like, you know, I tell my girls all the time, you don't need to have attitude on that field. Okay. You want to have attitude? Take it out with your bat and the ball. Okay. And I literally will tell them that in practice. If you want to have an attitude or you're angry about something, you know, you got an F on a grade, whatever it is. Or one of my girls, for example, she broke up with her boyfriend. Okay. So she's been taking all of her anger into her pitching. And she's been doing phenomenal. Like strikes after strike after strike. And she was the one we were struggling with. And I'm like, well, apparently you just need to break up with them. It's just that
Yeah.
simple.
As a coach, you're like, this is working for me.
Yeah. But it's like, take the anger out on that field. Don't let it show, you know, act like it's a game face. That's your game face. That's what I used to do. And it actually got me quite a far, you know? So, about my background, you know, besides playing in Little League, I actually had 10 offers to college. And one of them was a full ride to South Dakota. But I was young and dumb, okay? And I will admit this. I know I did wrong. I shouldn't have. But I want to see my girl succeed where I didn't. And so, like, my daughter, she wants to go to Iowa Central and play for Iowa Central. Great, phenomenal. You know, we went, had a college visit. She met the coach. Coach was awesome. And he looked at me and he's like, I'm assuming you're her coach. And I'm like, how did you figure that? Like, I didn't wear any of my Iowa Slammer stuff for nothing. And he's like, oh, just the way you're talking. And I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, I'm her coach. We'll put it that way.
I've been ousted.
Yeah. And he's like, I guess you've done this a time or two. I'm like, well, you know, I've had it to where for my pitching, and that was it. It was my pitching that got me those scholarships. I worked hard. I worked day in, day out. Like, I didn't take a break. I probably should have, and I probably wouldn't have the issue I have with my arm. But was it worth it? Yes. In the end result, it was all worth it. But now, instead of me accepting what I rejected, I can put it into these girls and have them go further. So I already have like 4 girls on my team that want to go to college. My pitcher's one of them. And her and I worked almost every day, or we talk every day at least. Hey, I'm doing this. Is there another drill I could do? And I'll tell her, try this drill instead. Mix it up a little. Do one drill this day, one drill this day. That way you're kind of intermingling. You're still getting the practice. That is the biggest thing I can harp on pitchers, is you have to put the practice in. Otherwise, it's not going to go anywhere. And same thing with catching. Catching and pitching play hand in hand. You got to practice at it. You can't just sit months on end and expect that you know what you're supposed to do. My daughter did that, and it did not work for her. She's my biggest blocker, okay? And the biggest thing she's struggling on now is a side block, where she kicks her leg out and she slides and catches the ball if it's clear over here. Well, she skipped a couple months of doing it once she got injured, so really not her fault. But she still didn't do like the motion of it, and she lost it all. So then we had to start from square one again. She's like, Mom, I'm not doing that again. And I'm like, well, then you just need to practice it. Even if it's without your arms, you have your arms up here and you slide, you can still do it. It's just if you want to put the time in, is what it comes down to.
It's that internal motivation and that drive. Well, I love that. And I love this. And we're nearing the end of our time here, but I will mention my daughter plays for Ellsworth currently. She's headed to Maryland next year. She did sign with them now, but she's playing for Ellsworth currently, and we know Iowa Central very well.
We went to a college visit on the 22nd, and she's like, Mom, I love this school. And I'm like, okay, what do you love about it? She's like, I like the factor it's small, it's compact, it's not huge by any means. And my daughter, she wants to go and be a vet tech. And luckily, this year they're starting a vet tech program. I'm like, well, I guess we're in luck.
Yeah, it sounds like the stars are lining up for you.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. It was kind of one of those things of, she wanted to go to her top, okay, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, DMAC, which is here in Des Moines.
Yeah.
Iowa Central, like we couldn't have like, we had to have wide variety. We couldn't have like small little ones. So it kind of,
Well, you got some big schools in there.
Yeah. Well, she thought she wanted to go and play softball like huge at Texas Tech or Texas. And I told her, I'm like, let's just start at a community college first. See how you do. Okay. College is different than tournament in high school. You're working a lot more. And she's like, well, Mom, how do you know that? You didn't go to college. And I'm like, you realize I was accepted, right? You've been through this. He's like, I know, but you never physically went to college. And I'm like, all of my whole team that I was on, I keep in contact with them. My catchers that I had, my other pitchers that were on my team, we all became family. And I told her, I'm like, that's what you need. You need to build a family in softball. You don't have that family. You don't have that connection. That connection's not on the field. And I think that's what a lot of coaches and players need to hear, because it's not put out there a lot. you gotta have the family connection, even if it's, just getting along with them on the field and you don't like them off the field. You still have that connection though. You gotta have it. You won't go anywhere.
That's like the secret sauce for any winning championship team.
Mm-hmm.
You could have, and I've had them both. I've had them all. There isn't anything I haven't seen in the last 26 years. But one thing I know, no matter the talent level, no matter the experience level, if you have girls that can become as one or a family, as you would, I believe we're saying the same thing on the field, that will win over talent 8 times out of 10. There are going to be some times where talent gives you a walk off or shuts you down in the circle, or some of those things where you can win with that. But more often than not, that family dynamic is what, and that culture is what creates a winning organization and a winning team.
Yeah.
And so we're going to wrap it up here. What is the one piece of advice you would give to a new travel ball coach? Where would you want them to start? What's the first thing they should do?
For me, and this is how I kind of did it, it's probably not the way most coaches do it. I get to know my girls. We have potlucks at my house. Everyone brings everything. We do something fun. Bring the girls together. The biggest thing that a lot of coaches don't do is team bondings. Besides the players that need to connect, your coaches need to connect with those players, which is why I do potlucks at my house. Or, during the summer, we may come out here and have a fun game of whatever. So, we have axe throwing too, and we did axe throwing last summer to help the girls because axes are heavy. It helps with the motion, right? So, the biggest thing I would say with that is getting to know your girls, getting to know, if you don't know the other coach, get to know the other coach, have the team bondings, have the potlucks, or, go bowling or whatever you're able to do. And let the girls bond. They have to bond to be able to have that connection. And that's where I would say is the biggest struggle that a lot of teams and coaches have. They don't have that bond. You can take a phenomenal players throughout the world, okay? And I could bring them all into one team. Just because they don't have that bond doesn't mean that they're going to go out there and do their business. They're going to be able to play the game, win the games, whatever. That's fine, but if you don't have the connection, it makes it 10 times harder.
That is very well said, Coach. And we're going to wrap it up here. But I kind of feel like I should let you know, if you guys haven't seen the movie See Her, Be Her,
Mm-hmm.
the story of women in baseball, they really showcase that aspect of it, what it's like. And they show those relationships as they build and go over the years. And those girls are volunteering to be there. They're not being paid to be there. And it becomes this thing, one's a firefighter and one's this and that. And it's really showcasing. That's a great documentary, a short watch, and it's showing you exactly what you're demonstrating here. I mean, that is at the highest level how that works. Those teams win and win consistently, and they're very confident because they have that bond. They're so close.
I would agree.
I love it. All right, Coach. Well, thanks for being with us here today on Inside the Dugout with the Pack. And we look forward to you having a winning season. Share with us in the community. Let us know how you're doing, and always ask any questions that you have.
Perfect. Thank you.